Okay. Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer and this is DGI 383. We have a lot of information to share with you from G20, from what is happening around the world. And let's welcome our co-host Sridhar Chityalaji. Sridharji, Namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar, good morning to everybody, or early good evening in India. Nice to be here.
Sridharji, a lot of things happening in and around the country and also in the world. The first thing that we would like to touch about is what is happening to the markets in because of the G20 meeting. There are lots of activity going on. India has started doing more serious trade with Russia. So take it away, sir.
Well, I think firstly on the market side, the inflation data is expected right around the world. I mean, as we speak, the data is likely to be announced. It is expected to be slightly higher, but let us wait and see. This is in the US. As far as India is concerned, the inflation seems to have been lower, and we'll cover that in the India section on the back of price concessions or price contraction in oil as well as in some of the manufactured items. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is, as you rightly touched on, is what is happening in G20, whether there is going to be any coordinated efforts managed or are done by the G20 nations to address the inflation and supply chain issues. We'll probably hear some snippets coming out of it. So that's on the market side, and also more retail sales earnings will come out during this week, ranging from today. Home Depot reported a good 6% increase in sales. So that will show the buoyancy of the customer confidence in the markets. The actual market futures are up as we came into the show. The markets open in hours time. So that's on the market side and the integration with the G20 strategy.
And viewers, please like this video. We have a lot of breaking information to share with you. Breaking information that MSM has not yet shared. Can we have that one graphic, please, about the latest situation in the House elections for the midterm for the United States in 2022? The Republicans are within striking distance, Sridharji?
They're within striking distance, one seat away from claiming majority. So there's roughly about 13 seats left. That is being counted. We believe that they will probably get close to 220, much lower number than what we had anticipated, but still it is House majority, which will in itself trigger certain actions. The Democrats have regained Senate. They have 50-49 with one seat going for a re-election in December. But that would not have material impact as far as the outcome of the Senate is concerned.
And I think there is a important takeaway for the Republican Party. The days of how they used to campaign, I think those days are over. The US presidency, the US elections is all being determined by 8 states, and they need to put some extra focus there. And they need to understand how it is that one party gets 85% of the mail-in ballot vote. Unless that changes, every election for the Republicans is going to be a humdinger. It'll be like pulling teeth. I mean, I can go on and on. This is my 2 cents. Sridharji, I put a simple 5-minute monologue on the future leadership in both parties. It's the first step. We'll be adding more people as things become. But viewers, do watch that. That's on our channel too. Let's move on to the next topic. Sridharji, on the sidelines of G20 meeting, Xi Jinping and Joe Biden met. And not much has been talked about after that. I saw the press conference after that. For some reason, Joe Biden looked very alert and, he was able to answer all the questions. It's become an unusual thing when he is so responsive. So what do you think happened at the sidelines, sir?
Well, I think the sidelines, he had a precursor in the ASEAN in Cambodia, in Phnom Penh. Basically, he says that he knows and he has worked with Mr. Xi Jinping for more than 10 years. He's aware they have a relationship. And I think he said his objective is not to have a confrontation, but to have a dialogue and determine what the red lines are. So effectively, I think both of them seem to have some disagreement on the Taiwan situation, but they didn't blow that up into an issue. And both kind of agreed that Biden came on the back of a very strong domestic acknowledgement and endorsement on the back of the elections. Xi Jinping has come in with a very strong consolidated power structure. So they're kind of we're touching and feeling each other to basically say, let's see how we can work together. That's also the message from ASEAN. ASEAN is saying, we cannot have China and United States fighting and creating a huge imbalance and economic catastrophe on the back of the COVID. So we need to kind of recognize and move things forward. Remember that China is not in a great situation on the back of what is happening with regard to COVID.
Sridharji, what is this I hear about Russia's foreign minister Lavrov being admitted in a hospital? He has come out with a denial. What really is the truth, sir?
The truth is that he had some problem. The truth is he went to hospital for a consultation. The truth is we don't know what exactly the reason, but he did go to the hospital. He had a consultation, but he's back in the helm of things. He was at the meeting when the G20 were discussing the Russia-Ukraine situation and strong condemnation of the Russian position. So therefore, he was very much there. But equally, he did have some kind of a small hiccup, which was addressed at the hospital. So therefore, that's the truth. Obviously, Russians would say, no, nothing happened. But Indonesians are not going to put something out without actually the truth behind it.
Absolutely. And she seems to be the flavor of the G20. German Chancellor wants to meet with him and carry on from where he left off. Japanese Prime Minister wants to meet with him. Australian Prime Minister wants to meet with him. Sridharji, Emperor Xi is being recognized around the world, regardless of how he got there, sir.
He is Emperor Xi, Sriji. We were the first people to what you call nominate him and put him on the pedestal as the Emperor Xi. So he must thank us for that. So you can say I'm wearing a red jacket right now as an endorsement of Emperor Xi. The situation is, I think there's an underlying very strong tone. Quad is dead. We were the first people who said Quad is dead, and Quad is dead. So therefore, Quad was about security. Quad was about being firm with China that there's a rule-based Indo-Pacific, and Taiwan is a red line. Senkaku is a red line. Now we have an entire flip-flop. There has been a change in the Japanese Prime Minister. There has been a change in the Australian Prime Minister. There has been a change in the US presidency. The only person who remains from that old league is the Indian Prime Minister Modi. So what you're witnessing is that the Quad has been marginalized, and now they're trying to talk with China to say, okay, we may do trade. Okay, let's be conciliatory. Don't do anything in Taiwan. Is Xi Jinping going to listen to it? My answer is no.
And viewers, tomorrow there's going to be an in-depth look at the new China under Emperor Xi. I've already recorded the session with Elmer Yuan, and it will be aired tomorrow at 8 p.m. IST. So do tune in for that. A lot of information shared. A lot of, we always give unasked for advice, and Elmer has his own dose of advice for the Republicans. So do join, because there are a lot of new things that came out in that discussion. Let's move on to ASEAN meeting that took place in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And ASEAN members are saying we don't want to choose sides. And the bilateral trade of the ASEAN nations with the United States is estimated to be 360 billion plus. And with China, it is 545 billion. So if in terms of who is the largest trading partner for China, it is the ASEAN group. Now, Sridharji, you and I have discussed at length all the different machinations that China was involved in, whether it is the Mekong Delta River waters or the overall trying to be the hegemon in this region. Now, where do you think ASEAN is? They tried to interfere in Myanmar. Nothing seems to have happened there, but they still have an important role to play.
Well, ASEAN is the great thing about ASEAN is the nation, about 10 countries which make up the ASEAN. It's a consensus building body. They have worked very effectively together. It started with seven, they subsequently added Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos to make it a 10-member. It's a long established body. So what they're saying to China and to United States is, we do not want war. We have very good relationship with you. We have a very good relationship with China. So China is, at least post Quad world in the recent past, we have not seen either skirmishes in the Scarborough Shoals. We haven't seen merry-go-rounds in the South China Sea. We have not seen fishing trawlers of the Indonesians being thwarted. The Mekong Valley remains a contentious issue because the reason is everything is distracted by COVID. That particular impact still is prevalent. In the meanwhile, you have trains going into Cambodia and Laos from China, and they're also building a they've already built and inaugurated a high-speed network into Myanmar. So what's happening is China has consolidated its position, and it is happening silently with the Quad powers absent in the region. So that is going on. But what is important for China is that the largest bilateral trading partner for China is ASEAN. That is their number one trading partner. You can see the volume. Number four trading partner by volume to United States is also ASEAN. So therefore, both are the two superpowers are pivotal as far as ASEAN is concerned. So the ASEAN countries also, be it Singapore, be it Philippines, be it Vietnam, or the East Asian nations, be it South Korea, be it Japan, they've all built deterrence mechanisms in the event things go wrong. So there is no Quad, there is no movement. Hence, China is subtly and slowly consolidating its position while these group meetings go on, Sriji.
Thank you, sir. And Myanmar was not invited at the ASEAN. So there is an indication there that Myanmar still is being kept out of the ASEAN. US, Japan, and Korea met on the sidelines, and they agreed to work together on East Asia with common security agenda. So again, we are seeing the Quad, going in small pieces. You have separate things. You have a new grouping, United States, Israel, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Oh, I'm sorry, no Israel. United States, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and India. That's another grouping that has been named. I don't know what's happening there. Sridharji, a lot of stuff happening, but overall, is this lull before storm as far as Xi Jinping is concerned, whether he is still going to move on Taiwan, because that has been a big deal. He has made that as part of his center part of his speech, sir.
The difference between Russia, United States, vis-a-vis China is China is very, very organized. Doesn't matter in its economic agenda, doesn't matter in its infrastructure agenda, doesn't matter on its war agenda. So clearly, the war signal has been given to the Chinese army. The Chinese army has been told to get ready for confrontation and get ready for any kind of offense that is likely to come up, or one China that we have all agreed to as part of the most recent Congress that took place in Beijing. So China is in a state of preparedness, and China is moving forward. Whether the world accepts it or not, they are moving forward. But they're not going to be as hasty as what Russia did and what's happening to Russia in Ukraine, or what United States has historically done and has not prosecuted any wars successfully. China will be different. The only area where China has faltered is in the Belt Road initiatives, where they have misgauged and went with, I would say, suboptimal plans, and that's why it's faltering.
One important aspect I forgot to mention, Sridharji, and it just occurred to me today. President Donald Trump was supposed to make an announcement. Do you think that still is on the cards?
As per my information, it is 16th of November, so which is probably
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's very much on the cards. I think that
Okay.
he's announcing his candidacy.
Wonderful, sir. And let's wait and see what happens there. Let's take a look at the Russia-Ukraine war. Looks like Kherson has been completely occupied back or reclaimed back by Ukraine, and they are saying that this is the beginning of the end of the war. Russia, on the contrary, says that we have launched a new offensive in the Donetsk region. Now, if I understand this thing, Sridharji, there were four areas that Russia had kind of walked into Ukraine: Kherson region, then there is the Kharkiv region, and then there is the Donbass region, which is two states. Now, let's keep the Donbass aside for a minute. How are things in the Kharkiv region, sir?
Well, I think that the except for the Eastern Front, where they have tremendous amount of local support, I think the other two areas has been a failure as far as Russia is concerned. Many people critiqued us, and many people said we are representatives of CIA, and all kinds of names were thrown. And equally, many analysts came on the show and went on to say it is going to be a cakewalk, and there's going to be all kinds of weaponry launched, and it'll all be done in few days. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Even smaller nations have a lot of resoluteness in terms of defending the sovereignty of the respective kind of little nations or little areas that they defend themselves. So clearly, Russia has learnt its lesson, and probably there are people, well-wishers, notably led by India, who is telling Russia, look, you have a lot to gain by getting out of where you are, then a lot to lose by continuing to do what you are doing. There's a limit to which people like us can support and ignore the global community. But if you don't kind of come some distance forward, then we're not going to be able to help you. So India, I believe, is behind the scenes. Like India, few nations are helping, which is what is dawning on Russia. And I think Russia is willing to accept and move things forward. They have the veto power. They cannot be prosecuted. They cannot be punished. The world can do whatever they want on human rights, abuses, this, that, and so on. But I don't think Russia is very strong. But it's also, lost a lot of money. Economy has contracted. The trade that India is continuing to conduct, along with some of the Russian nations, European nations, is helping the Russian economy as well. China will wait and watch. Riji, before I can, and it will not do anything to upset its business either.
And a very important news on the Indian front, and this is just breaking, so bear with us while we disclose this. India has started a military exercise along its entire border of 7,000 odd kilometers. And this means that there is something that happened in that spy ship that came and sat outside Odisha. Somewhere India feels that it needs to get to the next level of preparedness as far as its army is concerned. Sridharji, have you been following this particular news, sir?
I have two ships. The first came in, and then the second came in, just on the back, knowing fully well that there was an imminent a submarine-based launch was being planned, and that has been delayed or deferred. India has to announce to the world specific dates in which that can occur, and so therefore they will alert any vessels movements around that. So it got probably wind of that. That has been delayed. So that's one thing. The second is that there is clearly tracking going on around the various, not only satellite, but positions of the missiles that India launches from surface to air is concerned. So India is not, just like other nations, India is really on the alert. And while it continues to build infrastructure, it, as you rightly pointed out, it is militarily prepared both in water and on land and in air to defend and to deter in case China entertains any aspersions.
Now, I'm also reading that 9 Indian banks are going to have a rupee ruble facility. Right now, there are 3 banks that are doing that. Siddharji, this is a good step because India is not putting all its eggs in one basket. It is realized that there are risks associated with that strategy. But I think I commend the Modi government for showing a lot of spine and resolve in this, sir.
It is, I think that they had initially alerted about these 9 banks. The first 3 banks got themselves. This is establishing what we call nostro vostro accounts, which
Yes, yes.
enables the two countries to move money. They obviously will use some kind of a benchmark mechanism to determine the rates between the ruble and Indian rupee. So I think the we have already covered this with bilateral trade now expected to reach about $30 billion relative to way. So they feel that this is necessary for India's energy security. And India needs continuously Russian oil plus other kinds of equipment which it is militarily reliant on for its ongoing state of preparedness and deterrence. So therefore, I think it's a good move. It was long coming, but the volumes have now reached a stage, and the predictability of the trade has reached a level. But and hence, establishing the banking protocols is very critical to support its strategy.
And we haven't covered this much, but today we can tell you that Janet Yellen's visit to India was perhaps good for India. India has been taken off the currency monitoring list. Again, this is monitored very closely, so it could get back on again. At least for now, it is off of that list. And also, India is not going to be sanctioned for buying oil from Russia. How did this change of heart come about, Sridharji?
Well, I think that there are not too many allies or friends, especially for Indo-Pacific strategy. For Indo-Pacific strategy to work, they require a large partner who is a counterbalance to China. So, United States is going to achieve nothing if India is antagonized, pushing it all the way towards one of two adversaries, namely Russia as well as China. But to commend India, India has continually emphasized both in its United Nations actions as well as its conduct in IMF and World Bank that it believes in a rules-based model. We believe in rules-based model. If United States doesn't follow the rules, then we don't agree. If Russia doesn't follow the rules, we don't agree. So it has steadfastly maintained the rules-based model. So it basically says, okay, I'm importing oil, but Europe imports oil too. If what I import in 1 month is equal to what you import in one day, tell me what am I doing wrong? So there are no answers. So it has followed precedents and principles in the conduct of its business. So that is what has enabled people like Janet Yellen, and as well as also just like Mr. Biden and Mr. Xi Jinping has a very good relationship. Dr. Jaishankar as well as Mr. Anthony Blinken have a very good relationship going back to their days from Obama and pre-Obama days when he was the Secretary of State. When he was the Secretary of State, that's correct. So therefore, I think that dialogue has helped India and therefore the world to recognize most notably United States.
And India and Finland will be partnering in mobile technologies. That's a good development. And India's wholesale inflation has reduced to a 19-month low of 8.39% in October on the back of easing oil prices and manufactured items. I mean, this one line alone is being under control because of India's deal with Russia, in my opinion. Sridharji, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we've discussed this, and I think there was, again, a pushback. You cannot solve a fiscal policy or a fiscal issue with a monetary tool. This is the blunder that United States is creating. So what's a monetary tool? Toggling the interest rates to contain inflation. Guess what? What is the source of inflation? Supply
Oil, energy,
issues.
right.
Supply issues. So this is what Ted Kennedy from the Republican side was giving a dinger to Dr. Jerome Powell. Please, let's go step by step and say, how will you deal with the supply issue? You need to increase the supply. The prices will come down. So it's exactly what India has done. It has increased the supply at a 35 to 40% discounted price. So relative basis, its price on the energy costs on its balance sheet, though still higher, has enabled it to contain the inflation. Similarly, the PLI programs, which has enabled India to increase the domestic manufacturing, has not only allowed the imports to come down, but it has also given the price advantage and stability for the domestic consumption. So this is exactly what you need to do if you have to contain inflation driven by supply side, not on the demand side. Okay, this is a supply side issue which is triggering the prices while the demand remaining the same.
Thank you so much, Sridhar ji. And viewers, as always, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. We'll be back again on Thursday, bright and early, with more developments. Hopefully, by that time, the Republican majority in the House is established, because we'll be keenly following what the presumptive leader, Kevin McCarthy, I mean, this is just my call. Sridhar ji can correct me. Many twists and turns between now and the actual anointment. So there's going to be some interesting stuff. The Republicans have to tread cautiously. If they go too aggressive against Biden without proof, that could also, fire badly. Right now, I don't know what the Republican think tank is thinking. Sridharji, you are more closer. You're closer to the nerve center. You can share a little bit with us on Thursday, sir, because the dust is settling down now, and let us see how the democracy wins and continues to thrive in the United States. Thank you very much, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar, thank you, and have a wonderful day, have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to seeing you back on Thursday.